Ms. Linahan, if you would introduce yourself for the record.
Again, my name is Alice Linahan, and I am a mother, and I am strongly against Senate Bill 1866. There's no constitutional authority for a mental health office within the TEA. I'm a mother of 3 children, ages 20, 18, and 12. We need to address why there is a need for a mental health division within the TEA. Why do our children seem to be in need of mental health care, and why do they seem to be committing suicide at a higher rate recently, since the Texas College and Career Ready standards have been in place that align with the federally mandates of the Every Student Succeeds Act? As we've seen in school districts such as Leander ISD, who just this year had 5 suicides. I've seen a huge shift in education between how my 20-year-old was taught math and how my 12-year-old was being taught math. So much so, I pulled my 12-year out and I'm homeschooling. This is not a liberal versus conservative issue. Parents and educators on both sides of the political aisle are horrified by what we're seeing in the classroom. This is a fundamental shift that I'm talking about from a transmission of knowledge, fact-based, which is mandated in the Texas Constitution, that parents still expect from their schools, to an emphasis on altering the students' values, attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. The federal unconstitutional medical model of education has been locked in place through the passage of both federal and state legislation, specifically by the passage of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which binds pre-K through the workforce education, I'm almost done, under the Departments of Health and Human Services, Labor, Defense, and Education. The ESSA is a medical model. I hope you'll take the time to ask me how this has impacted my children directly.
Sir Betancourt?
Ma'am, thanks for your testimony. Just as a quick comment, we did have some testimony last session with other parents about Leander ISD. They brought in some preposterously bad test questions from Leander ISD that it was really sad. So I understand your point. I hope they have taken the ability or the time to improve themselves, because they had greatly saddened me when I, had to listen to these questions that, as a math guy in the Senate, were just this preposterous. So I understand your point.
And to your point, there was a gentleman from Leander last week who testified in front of the State Board of Education and gave a full report on how the process standards in the college and career ready math standards are harming our kids. And they voted not to remove them.
Well, but we heard at least you. Thank you for your testimony.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hall?
So what you're saying is you see a correlation between where we're going with our math standards and how it's being taught in the schools and harming the kids? Could you?
Mm-hmm. I saw it in my own children. My 12-year-old went from loving math and being very successful to crying every night. And when you look across the country and you listen to moms and dads, that's what we're seeing. And there was testimony in front of the State Board of Education. Our math standards are not only putting our children behind 2 to 3 years in math, but Dr. Jim Milgram testified in front of the state SBOE in November that our math standards are actually worse than Common Core.
Okay. Well, I would like to talk about the process standards, so let me just discuss a little bit about what the issues are in removing them or not removing them. So one of the main reasons these standards need to go, and there's really a real problem here, is a matter of law. It is illegal in Texas to have any of the Common Core standards in the Texas standards. Now, these process standards are basically, they're a lot less wordy than the process standards, the 7 process standards in the Common Core, but they cover the same material in the same order. They just take out a lot of the words. And the trouble is that in Common Core, those words, mathematicians actually, when they look at the process standards in Common Core, they say, oh, they're not completely horrible. And that, you know, the point is that the mathematicians actually wrote much of the Common Core process standards, but you've taken out those words. So you've got process standards which are the same as Common Core, same order, but not even as good as Common Core's process standards. And Common Core's process standards are the heart of the problems with Common Core.
So when you take a child who is, my son was in 3rd grade, who went from loving math to hating math and crying every night, that has a mental implication on a child. He hated going to school every day. And that wasn't the teacher's fault. That was what was being mandated on the school district, on that teacher.
Could you give me some examples of studies, reports that have been done in this area that document what you're talking about?
Yes, one, Dr. Jim Milgram has testified several times in front of the State Board of Education. Dr. Milgram was appointed to validate the Common Core math standards and refused to because he said it would put our children behind 2 to 3 years in math. He was a part of developing the Texas math standards and would not sign off on them because he said they were dangerous for our kids. There's another dad from Leander ISD who's written reports and proved that the STAR assessment is not testing academics, the content. It is, you hear about the fact that it's all about the process standards. So when you have children who are in, and this is impacting especially elementary age kids, when you have kids who are asked to think abstractly and their brains are not developed, their frontal cortex is not developed, it's not that they're not going to get it, it's developmentally inappropriate. And I believe, and there has been testimony from child psychologists, this is causing the mental damage on kids. When you have kids cutting themselves and committing suicide, there's a problem. And parents across the state have been going to the SBOE for the last 2.5 years. They voted last week not to fix them.
Okay. Well, I'd like to, if you'd give me a list or give us a list of those studies or copies of them, I appreciate it. And you mentioned something just a while ago about the Meadows Foundation. Could you,
Yes.
what's that relationship?
There's organizations like the Meadows Foundation, the Meadows Mental Health Foundation, and I will send you a copy of their 990. The organizations that they are funding are all these nonprofit organizations who are pushing this medical model. And they have the Meadows Mental Health Policy Institute. This is a real challenge. Not only are they funding these nonprofits, they're funding organizations like Planned Parenthood. And care. as a parent who's doing research like this, and then to have a bill like this come, your constitutional role is to provide a knowledge-based education of opportunity. I don't care if you're black, white, purple, yellow, rich or poor. If you have a great teacher who can teach you how to read well, write well, do math, and you know history, you have an equal opportunity in life. That's what we used to have. Now, and I've heard it all day today, we have shifted to an education of equity, equal outcomes, based on attitudes, values, beliefs, behaviors. And what is that modeled off of? The Soviet model. And when you look at school districts in Texas who are implementing the learning theories based on the Common Core philosophy of Levidotsky, he's a behavioral psychologist. It's no wonder you're going to have mental health issues. So we need to talk about the real cause of what's harming our kids. And I'm a mother who does this kind of research. Most people don't do this. And think of those kids who actually are economically disadvantaged, don't have that opportunity. They're the ones who are being harmed the most, because they're not getting that. They're not being taught to read well, write well, and do math. Dr. Milgram said children who are in this type of math program for more than 4 years are done. They'll never recover.
All right, thank you. Please get me those reports, if you would.
I will.
Right.
Senator Lucio.
I appreciate your testimony, and I thank you for being a great mama, and for your testimony. It brings in awareness. It adds to the many hours of testimony that we've that we've had, most of us for many years, and I certainly want to respond to those. During the interim next session, work with you and others that have the same concerns. You're right in everything that you said, and I appreciate it. Right, I'm just trying to help. I'm one of the fortunate ones. I'm a parent of 2 kids and 5 grandchildren. No mental health issues. Praise the Lord. But I care to help those that do have issues, and I'm trying not only through this piece of legislation but others to echo your sentiments. I really am, and work with these outstanding Texans that I have the privilege of working with. So I just want to thank you. Thank you for waiting all day.
Thank you.